Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Tuesday, September 6th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for September 6th, 2022. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to when phone lines are unmuted. All phone lines will be unmuted during the consent agenda, public hearings, and public input periods, and city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Thank you. Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Kavanaugh, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite everybody who is able to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first agenda item is Mayor Pro Tem swearing in.
I, Laura Roussel, do solemnly swear
I, Laura Roussel, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability,
and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of the office of Mayor Pro Tem as now or hereafter required by law.
discharge all the duties of the office of Mayor Pro Tem as now or hereafter required by law.
Congratulations.
We'll move on to presentations. Our first presentation is the COVID-19 update.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Mary Rose Corrigan, Public Health Director with the Health Services Department, here with your September 6, 2022 COVID update. As soon as it comes up on the screen there. Okay, well, I'll start off with just showing the overall epidemiological curve since we began in March 2020, and you can see that the upward trend has, since started in April of 2022, has maintained itself at that straight line. In the last couple weeks, we have taken a slight decline, so we'll see if this continues to decline. The age groups continue to be wide and varied. If this is a rather finite breakdown of all the different age groups, but if I look at the cases from August 23rd through September 5th, about 17% are between 0 and 11-year-olds. 17% between 12 and 24-year-olds. 44% are in those 25 to 64, and for those 65 and older, they comprise 27% of the cases in the last 2 weeks. This is the overall 7-day count in Dubuque County, and you can see the line is going down, and I predict that tomorrow's number will also decline as we update that every Wednesday. And our hospitalizations remain fairly steady. With meeting with the hospitals, they continue to say they're busy. The COVID patients there's only few in the ICU, and it's manageable. They still have some challenges with staff being out due to COVID, however, but they're able to maintain full services. Dubuque continues to be at medium transmission for the community level, as reported by the CDC, and this is a number based on hospital admissions per 100,000 population and the percent of staffed beds in the hospital of COVID patients. We did bounce around during August a few times into the high category, but we're back down on medium right now. As far as the variants, we continue to have 100% Omicron, and the subvariant primarily BA5.2.1, and a couple other of the BA5 subvariants continue. Our vaccination data is creeping up very slowly. The Iowa Department of Public Health is no longer reporting vaccination data on a county-wide level. This slide is from the Center for Disease Control, so we can't manipulate the data into various groups as well as we could. But I did prepare a slide that shows Iowa's vaccination rates in the various age groups and whether they had one dose fully vaccinated, a booster, or a second booster. Now keep in mind some groups have not been eligible for second boosters, or that's just rolling out. The thing that is to take note of is the very low vaccination rate among those under 5 years of age. And also the 5 to 11-year-olds, there's only 26% fully vaccinated, which is concerning considering the beginning of the school year, and we know students will be engaging in a lot of activities and in-person activities. The good news is we now have an updated booster vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna. It is targets the BA4 and BA5 Omicron subvariants. CDC's Independent Advisory Committee, the ACIP, voted on September 1st, just last week, to recommend Moderna and Pfizer bivalent boosters. They're called bivalent because they target these Omicron subvariants. And this follows FDA's emergency authorization use that was done on August 31st. So the new vaccines contain the original strain of the virus, messenger RNAs for the original strain of the virus, and the Omicron BA4 and BA5 sublineages. This booster is only for those who are fully vaccinated and administered 2 months following your last primary or booster vaccination. And Pfizer vaccine is for 12 and older, and Moderna is for 18. This can be administered with the influenza vaccine and other vaccines, as a matter of fact, which has been consistent with all the COVID vaccines. So moving forward, from now on, only this bivalent new booster will be given as a booster for 12 years old and older. The previous boosters are no longer authorized and they won't be used. Children 5 to 11 will continue with that regular monovalent booster. We have the VNA continues their open clinics on Mondays and Fridays. Interesting, just a few statistics up there. about 60% of residents 12 and older who are fully vaccinated have a booster dose. So the rollout of this vaccine will start this week. Our vaccine providers were just receiving it today and probably in the next couple of days. It's important to know that there's an abundant supply of the vaccines nationally, but the rollout is going to be a little slow, and the allocations to Iowa and the local providers is limited. So we weren't able to give vaccine to every provider that wanted it, but the major providers did receive some vaccine. When we met with the vaccine providers today, they're still fine-tuning their plans for this, but they are saying appointments will be necessary and to call or check the provider websites for when those will open up. And part of the reason they didn't have their plans solidified is because it was uncertain whether or not this vaccine was going to have priority groups, and it does not. So it's a first come, first serve. And just a reminder, we had this updated guidance last month, but want to continue to emphasize vaccinations. It's really the reason why we're in the situation we are, that we've only had 5 or 6 deaths since June 1st, and our severe illness is decreased greatly. If people are exposed to COVID-19, quarantine is no longer required, but you should wear a mask for 10 days and test on day 5 after exposure. And of course, if you're COVID-19 positive, you need to isolate and stay home for at least 5 days, and if symptoms are improved. And I want to stress that although the guidance says at least 5 days, if your symptoms are not improving and you're still sick, you should stay at home, regardless of that 5-day, until at least 10 days or the symptoms subside. So looking ahead, our after-action report with our consultant is underway. We'll continue with the bivalent vaccine rollout. We'll be monitoring cases as school starts. And what to predict for fall, nobody really knows for sure. Interestingly enough, in August, the European Commission rolled out a report on possible scenarios for the fall for the European Union, and they ranged from diminished threat to what we have now, to regular infections occurring, to a long and barely manageable winter, to a long and unmanageable winter, or to a new pandemic. So that's basically all over the board, looking at all the data and different factors rolling into this pandemic. But the best thing we can do is to continue with vaccinations and keep ourselves and make those individual choices to keep ourselves healthy. So that's all I have for you tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Do we have any questions or discussion this evening? Yeah, Ms. Weffel.
Mary Rose, could you share, you said that you had met with the vaccine providers and that not everyone was allocated vaccine. Could you share where people should reach out to receive vaccine?
Yes, we'll be including this in our weekly update tomorrow, but the Grand River Medical Group, Medical Associates, Mercy One Pharmacy, Hardig Retail Stores, and the VNA all received vaccine, if I remember right. Crescent Community Health Center will be receiving some next week, and the next shipment of the vaccine will come out just after September, probably the week after September 16th. So this initial allocation is smaller than we had hoped for, but there will be more coming.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Well, Mary Rose, thank you very much for another presentation this month. We appreciate it.
Great, you're welcome.
Okay, Adrian.
Our second presentation is Crescent Community Health Center Dancing with the Stars recognition.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, assembled guests. So my name is Gary Collins. I'm the CEO of Crescent Community Health Center. We're a federally qualified health center located here in Dubuque, right over on Elm Street. Annually, we see over 8,200 patients, which represents about 29,000 visits annually. But I'm here tonight to tell you about an extraordinary person this evening, Mr. Temwa Firi, who is Community Engagement Coordinator for the City of Dubuque. So back in early January, Temwa and Anderson came to visit Crescent to discuss quality and demographic data that Crescent collects each year to learn how we can better partner with the city on solutions to using the data to drive decisions about continuously improving health outcomes for all. Meeting went great. They loved our data. They wanted more data. They wanted to learn more about Crescent and the community we serve and how we could work together. Then in mid-March, I just received a call out of the blue from Temwa, and he said, I wanted to see if you would be interested in allowing Joanna, Yeboah, and myself to dance for Crescent in Dancing with the Stars, which raises money for the chamber. And of course, we said, of course, we'd be honored for you to do that, Temwa. Thanks for asking us. How can we support you? So in the middle of May, during Great Give Day, Temwa carved out part of his donation page to accept donations for Crescent, and that was very successful. He did very well that day. On June the 2nd, Temwa also was a guest bartender at the Rusty Taco, where he raised over $1,000 that night, bartending and talking to the crowd and drumming up more support and raising support for Crescent's cause. Then the big day came on June the 4th, and that's when Temwa and Joanna danced against 7 other pairs and received a perfect score, 3 10s from the esteemed judges panel. They also revealed the final tally from what Temwa and Joanna had raised for Crescent Community Health Center, and it came in at more than $13,000 just by the events that they had done leading up to the event. So this placed them in 3rd overall for the rankings of all the other teams, but it put them in, they were in 1st place for the dance that night. On August 11th, Crescent presented Temwa with a Mirrorball trophy at our National Health Center Week stakeholder event. And then on August the 12th, Temwa joined us for our picnic with our staff, and we honored him again in a more casual setting just to recognize him and impact on him how much that dancing meant to us as an organization. So Temwa, and I don't know if he's back in the room. Here he is. Temwa, why don't you come up here, please? I see you're in the back. Bring your kids up here. So you're forever a part of the Crescent family. Thank you for dancing into the hearts of everyone that watched you. We so appreciate you and all you've done for the community and for all you do each day to engage with and improve our community. You're truly an inspiration for all of us. You know, and Temwa has a quote on the bottom of his email salutation, and it reads the following: as a courtesy to the generation behind you, leave things that you are involved in better than you find them. And that's quoted by Inky Johnson. I can say quite confidently that's what Temwa's doing every day in everything he does. So you, Temwa, are doing that every day here in Dubuque, and we're honored to know you and to recognize you for your unyielding passion and everything that you do. Please join me in congratulating Temwa and thanking him for his great dance that night and all the things he's done to help Crescent and the community. We also have a plaque that all of our staff signed for Crescent, and this is capturing the moment when he actually did a full flip during his dance routine, and his partner, Joanna, is there. So great job, Temwa. You're amazing. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Gary, and everyone at Crescent. And Temwa, thank you for the service that you provide to this community every single day. That's amazing they caught that flip right there. That's a great picture. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Adrian.
We will move on to proclamations, and our proclamation this evening is Direct Support Professional Recognition Week.
All right, and I believe we have Kara Huss from Hills and Dales too. So if you'd like to come on up, Kara, if you want to say a few words before I read the proclamation for you.
Hi, we're with Hills and Dales. I'm Kara Huss, and with me I have Brooke and Jack. Jack is our CEO. Next week, we are celebrating Direct Support Professionals Week. As you know, with Hills and Dales, we are 100% staffed with what we call DSPs, and they are the core and they're the groundwork with what we do here at Hills and Dales, and we just want to celebrate them and become more aware of what they do. I'm going to pass it to Jack because I don't have much to say on it.
And Jack, that desk goes up a few, there's a
Oh,
button on the
yes.
right there. It just makes it so much easier to talk.
There's a button. on
Sorry,
the
Kara, I
right.
should have told you that too.
Sorry, Jack Mesher, CEO at Hills and Dales, and just on behalf of our agency and like agencies in the greater Dubuque area who support individuals with intellectual disabilities, we couldn't function, we couldn't adhere to our mission of building meaningful lives without the incredible, hardworking, mission-driven, passionate, beautiful people that are direct support professionals. So we thank you so much to the community for acknowledging the work that these individuals, these staff members do every day for the most brilliant and vulnerable in our community. And thanks so much for taking time tonight to honor them. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here and for the work that you do and recognizing this week and for being here to accept this proclamation this evening. So thank you. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas direct support professionals empower people with disabilities in their community, and whereas direct support professionals provide a broad range of individualized supports, including health and safety, pursuit of personal goals and independence, access to community engagement and leisure, and the pursuit of individual flourishing and meaning. And whereas direct support professionals are essential to persons with disabilities to live meaningful and independent lives in their own communities. And whereas organizations like Hills and Dales, who support individuals with disabilities, are deeply grateful and appreciative of the work that direct support professionals complete daily for a purpose greater than themselves. And whereas all residents are encouraged to learn about and appreciate the work of direct support professionals. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the week of September 11th through September 17th, 2022, as Direct Support Professionals Recognition Week in the City of Dubuque, Iowa. You can come on up and accept. Oh, right up here. Yeah, that's okay, sorry. It's a little confusing. It's a big room. Thank you so much. Oh, please, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. All right, thank you all. Okay, Adrian.
We will move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration. And consent items can be found on pages 2 through 5 of the agenda.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like any of the consent items removed for separate discussion this evening? Anyone virtually? Okay, then I'll bring it back to the table.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I move that we receive and file the documents and adopt and approve as recommended for the consent agenda.
Okay. Do we need to add? Nope, I think you're good. Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Jones.
Second by Farber.
All right, motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
We do not have any items set for public hearing tonight, so we'll move on to boards and commissions. We have appointments for the Airport Commission and Zoning Advisory Commission.
Okay, so for the Airport Commission this evening, we have 2 four-year terms through September 14th, 2026, and we have 2 applicants, so I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move that we appoint Robert Blocker and Michael Phillips to the terms on the Airport Commission.
Second.
Motion by Jones, second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And next, we have Zoning Advisory Commission appointment.
All right, and the Zoning Advisory Commission, we have 1 3-year term through July 1st, 2024, and we have 1 applicant, so I will entertain a motion for this as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move to nominate Ryan Sempf to the Zoning Advisory Commission.
Second by Sprank.
And a motion by Russell and a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones. Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Ryan Semp is appointed to the Zoning Advisory Commission.
We will move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please plan to approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is resolution of adoption for the amendment of the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District Urban Renewal Plan, version 2022.2.
I'll need a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
A motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the resolution of adoption for the amended and restated urban renewal plan for Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District, version 2022.2. The removal of the property is required to accommodate the issuance of urban renewal tax rebates under the development agreement by and among the City of Dubuque, Green Industrial Properties, Innovation Properties, and Green Industrial Supply. Once the property is removed from Subarea C, the area will be given a new subarea designation, resetting the period that tax increment can be collected on the property. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of a resolution of adoption for the amended and restated urban renewal plan for Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District, version 2022.2. Do we have anyone in the chambers to address the council on this item? Do we have anyone virtually?
We do not.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the table for any discussion. All right, seeing none, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is resolution of adoption for the amendment of the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District Urban Renewal Plan, version 2022.3.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Russo.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt a resolution of adoption for the amended and restated urban renewal plan version 2022.3 for the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District. The proposed expansion and amendment of the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District would result in the addition of property that is currently undeveloped. The expansion of the district is required to accommodate the issuance of urban renewal tax rebates under the development agreement by and among the City of Dubuque, Green Industrial Properties, Innovation Properties, and Green Industrial Supply. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of a resolution of adoption for the amended and restated urban renewal plan, version 2022.3, for the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District. Do we have anyone in the chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one, anyone virtually?
We do not.
Okay, bring it back to the table then for discussion. Seeing none, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 3 is Carnegie Stout Library Roofs 1 and 2 Restoration Project Public Hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
And a motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. Mike Van Milligan, City Manager. Project Manager Steve Sampson Brown and Library Director Nick Rossman are recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, an estimated cost of $130,500 for the Carnegie Stout Library Roofs 1 and 2 Restoration Project. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adoption of a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Carnegie Stout Library Roofs 1 and 2 restoration project. Do we have anyone in the chambers to address us on this item? Anyone virtually?
No virtual comments.
Okay, bring it back to the table then. All right, seeing no discussion. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
We will move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please plan to approach the podium and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Okay, do we have any public input in chambers this evening? And I'll just remind everyone as you come up there, that podium does move. Got a button on there on the right you can move so you can go up and down.
Not that tall. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lynn Sutton. I live at 859 Air Hill Street. I'm co-chair of Friends of Fair Housing. Tonight I want to talk about the unhoused ordinance. It saddened me to see that because there must be a better way, and there has to be a better way to deal with this. There's not an easy solution, but together we can find a solution. So therefore, I'm asking that you table this item until we can come up with a comprehensive plan that works for everyone and with some public input. Because yes, things that are happening may not be favorable, but this is not the way we want to treat our more unfortunate citizens here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton.
Hi, my name is Jeff Lenhart at 1085 Main Street here in Dubuque. Don't criticize what you don't understand, son. You never walked in that man's shoes. That's the quote that Elvis Presley actually often used, and it's a quote that I think about every single day. On September 25th, 2009, on my first trip to our nation's capital, while taking a walk late at night to the National Mall, I happened to see a homeless person just blocks from the White House sleeping in a garbage bag on a bench, just a few blocks from the White House. I remember that experience like it was just yesterday. It truly saddens me that in our country we tend to judge, criticize, and often ignore human beings who are homeless. It frustrates me that in a community that focuses on an inclusive and equitable community where all are welcome, that it would appear that instead of focusing on the solution to our whole local homelessness problem, that we are trying to further criminalize someone just because they have no place to call home. One of your staff members who was present tonight in an email to me last Friday stated, "I'm afraid that while Tuesday's item is about enforcement, the bigger message of solving the homelessness issue will be lost in the discussion. That, treating people compassionately and working towards solutions to the root problems are my, and the city's, I believe, first priority. If treating people compassionately and working towards solutions to the root problems are truly the city's first priority, rather than adopting changes to the camping ordinance and inoperable vehicles, instead, my suggestion is to first explore possible solutions to help those that are most in need, and inviting nonprofit partners and other community members to that discussion. I would encourage you tonight to table tonight's action item number 6 and a further discussion with our community can take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for your comments.
Good evening, everyone. Mike, Corey, Brad, council members. Rick Mim, 398 Main Street, Director of the Dubuque Rescue Mission. A lot of people have asked me about this. I've gotten calls and emails and my staff. So I want to start with something very positive, especially for Mike, Corey, and the police department. I have had no issues regarding their compassion, their understanding. They do. With the homeless people that are behind the mission or in the ramp at 4th Street or in our gardens or underneath the A&W overpass there, I have seen the police respond, and they have always been gentle, understanding, trying to offer help. So that's always been a good thing. So it was confusing to me as I read through all this. I'm like, why does the city think they need any change here? So I'm hoping if it's just so you can put up some signs and things like that, I'm okay with that. But I think because agencies and other people that have been working with the homeless and vulnerable of our city feel like they weren't invited or their input wasn't asked for. But maybe you can clarify in saying, we're going to get to that. There will be more meetings and we will ask input regarding abandoned vehicles, other things, junkie, on the streets or people living. I think currently I know one person, maybe two, at least that attend mission meals that are living in their vehicles. So I don't see that as a huge issue. The other stuff of maybe cleaning up abandoned vehicles, I see that as appropriate. The secondary responders team, I encourage you. I think that's a great movement towards that. And then lastly, I'd have you think about, maybe as we talk more about this as a city, of how we can help our most vulnerable people, is I sent it to Brad when I talked to him Sunday night. Indianapolis has an ordinance that they changed, and they made the homeless a protected class. And I thought, geez, that seems like a good place to start. Let's start there and then try to get these services wrapped. But ultimately, and I'll stop here, this is a housing issue. It really is. And when I say that, what I mean is we need housing that's about $300 a month. I don't think we're going to get the private sector or landlords to do that, but let's see if there aren't some buildings or other places that we can create housing, safe housing with staff people there. This is our model at the mission, so all of our other houses, which are around the community here, have a live-in staff person that's helping. And so I think if we look at options there, we'll get some success. And to close with, to help address currently, right now in the next few months, the mission we just purchased last week, the Dubuque Food Pantry at 16th and Jackson. That will be opened, we hope, November 1st for our warming shelter for these people in the ramps and other places, and then a drop-in center during the warm months like it is now. But there are individuals, we all know them, that do not want to go to such places, all right? And so they end up in other places, but they seem to be a few, and maybe we can get some help there too. So thanks for the considerations. Maybe putting it on hold and considering some other things might be worthy, but if it's just about signs and stuff, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mim. Anyone else with comments this evening? This will be the chance to talk about anything on the action item agenda.
Hello, once again. My name is Nino Urba. I live on 180 West 15th Street in Dubuque, Iowa, and I feel like I should emphasize that address once more because before I lived in my current address for over a year and a half, I was effectively homeless. I was couch surfing at other friends' places for over a year before I ended up at the Canfield Hotel, where I lived for over 6 months before the current 15th Street apartments were finally completed, and I was allowed to move in because of my circumstances. I have autism, and they were giving priority housing to disabilities. So I am eternally lucky that I've had the opportunities that I've been able to have, so that I was not out on the streets. Most of these city council issues that get brought up in these meetings are very wonky and deal with abstract issues, but this is not. This is personal for me and for hundreds of people who are currently homeless in Dubuque. And while we want to maintain optimism that this ordinance will not be as dire as we think it is, we've seen the countless news stories where when these anti-homeless ordinances get brought up in dozens of cities across the country, homeless people are further harassed by police. Their tent cities, whenever they pop up, are destroyed, and they are even thrown in jail for a situation that largely is not their own fault. And I wouldn't also feel so distressed about this if it wasn't that we had a housing panel last Wednesday sponsored by the TH and Green State Credit Union and others that tried to well, how can we be able to solve our housing crisis in Dubuque while discussing problems that were in search of a solution? I don't want to hear about what kind of wonky solution there is to try and get, some low-interest mortgages for people that need housing. Just give them housing, period. Homeless people are not criminals, and yet these ordinances treat homeless people like criminals. So if you are going to pass an ordinance that is going to inevitably cause further harm to people who are already disadvantaged, then at least have the decency to look them square in the eyes and tell me the truth about what this ordinance is going to do for us. I so yield.
Thank you, Mr. Erba, for your comments.
I'm Tom Lojudas, 786 Stone Ridge Place. I'm the co-chair of Friends of Fair Housing. Across the summer, homelessness certainly comes to my attention. Going to Salem, Oregon, going to Portland, Oregon, going to Madison, Wisconsin. Those are examples of communities that think comprehensively. On the face of it, the ordinance is okay, but there's a bigger picture. You find in Madison, Wisconsin, on the west end of town, that there's special housing for the homeless. It also makes it easier for services to be delivered to people. You find throughout Oregon, but I'm most familiar with Salem and Portland, that the churches are heavily involved. So you find tents in downtown Portland where the churches are involved. The churches are involved here in Dubuque as well. DACU allotted part of our money that is raised through the crop walk and the giving of churches toward the warming place, which is the former pantry that was discussed earlier. There really is a need, I think, for us to model a comprehensive plan and to act on a comprehensive plan so that the ordinance that you're talking about is something that's acted on in maybe 30 or 60 days when additional planning can be done. So I would urge you to table for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lojudas. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all for your comments this evening. Do we have anyone virtually?
We don't have any virtual input.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
there was written input submitted regarding action item number 6 that I just want to state for the record. Gail Whites of 1630 Laurie Court, Louis Del Toro of 901 Gilliam Street, Heather Lou Grain of 1111 Bluff Street, and Erica Hagen of 1655 South Grandview. And all of that input has been uploaded to the action item number 6 agenda item.
All right, thank you very much, Adrian. Okay. All right, then we can move on to action items, please.
Action item number 1 is Greater Dubuque Development Corporation quarterly update.
Then we'll need a motion before.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
I move
Jones.
to receive and file and hear the report.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Jones, second by Roussel. Take it away, Mr. Dickinson.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, ladies and gentlemen of the council, City Clerk Bright Felder, City Attorney Brenna Bremwall, City Manager Mike Van Milligan, and your most excellent city staff. My name is Rick Dickinson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, located at 900 Jackson Street, and my wife and I reside at 205 Hill Street here in Dubuque. I'm here tonight on double duty. First of all, I'm presenting the quarterly report, which is part of the agreement we have with the City of Dubuque in exchange for the funding that the mayor and council and citizens provide to our organization to give you an update on our economy. And I'm also here to discuss and express full support for the action item number 2, which is housing creation incentives. So first, the report to the community. This quarter, most recent workforce data shows that we have, on July of 2022, 59,000 people working in the metropolitan statistical area of Dubuque. This is 1,100 fewer people than in 2019 pre-pandemic, comparing the 2019 July to July of 2022. There's 2.8% unemployment in Dubuque County, and to set aside the stated position by many, but totally erroneous, is that the number of people who are collecting unemployment is not the cause of 1,500 people being unemployed in Dubuque, Iowa. The thought is, let's not pay people not to work. We've heard it time and again on the street and in our capital. The fact is that there are 1,500 people in Dubuque County in July that are identified as unemployed looking for work. But only 251 of those folks receive any unemployment benefits whatsoever. The cause of our workforce challenge in Dubuque County, and in fact across the state of Iowa and nationally, is not because of folks being on unemployment. In fact, in July of 2019, pre-pandemic, there were 60,100 folks working in the MSA of Dubuque County. We had 2.5% unemployment, and there were 574 people who were collecting unemployment pre-pandemic. The general state of the economy seems strong at first blush. I had the pleasure in August 22nd, 23rd, 24th to join you, not as long as you were there, but for a time during your planning session. And I wish all the citizens of Dubuque could experience watching you discuss the issues of the day and deliberating fairly and honestly about what are the challenges that we face in our community. I know your consultant began the session with a question. How would you rank your community from 1 to 10? There were several 7s in the group, explaining that, hey, that's not a bad grade. I really think we're doing great. There's just more to do. There were a number of 8s, a number of 9s. And there was even a sincere pronouncement of an 11. We rightly should love the community in which we live and take pride in our accomplishments. But that caring can also blind us to our weaknesses. At Greater Dubuque, we too are proud of the communities and the employers that we serve. But we are simultaneously focused on data, the numbers, the hard facts that sometimes belie our pride and prejudice. We subscribe at Greater Dubuque Development Corporation to Moody's Analytics, which is 3 reports a year that identifies the strengths and weaknesses of all 410 metropolitan statistical areas in the United States. Those are the counties or regions that have a population in excess of 50,000. This is what the report said based on numbers. Dubuque's economy is stuck in low gear, with total employment growth trailing the state and regional averages. Dubuque's pandemic jobs recovery now ranks as the second worst among Iowa's 7 metro areas. The unemployment rate has fallen to its lowest level since 2019, but the labor force remains severely depressed. Housing is no better. Construction has been weak recently, falling well below pre-pandemic levels. Subpar demographics will dim long-term economic prospects. The working age population has been declining for years, partly because young adults have been leaving the metro area on net. A dearth of lucrative job opportunities helps explain the exodus of Dubuque's share of high-wage jobs is below the Iowa and Midwest averages. Without a surge in investment, workers will continue to leave. Longer term, Dubuque will trail the nation across economic indicators because of weak demographics and declining and secular decline in manufacturing. This is a projection for 2021 through 2026. It states that of the 410 metropolitan statistical areas in the United States of America, Dubuque will rank 375th, only 35 communities weaker than our own, if we don't address the issues of the day. This doesn't have to be our future. This is a Dickensian forecast, a ghost of economy's future. If we do not squeeze every ounce of juice out of this economy, it is a future that we may have to live through. We are business and developer friendly only if we are told by business and developers that we are friendly, not when we say it to ourselves. How do we get to yes on the issues of the day? We already have a great example of how we can get to yes with business. Broadband. 5 years ago, we had 2 providers and no build over of our fiber to the home in our community. Changes in policies, pricing, and regulations now result in 10 providers and a race to supply fiber to the home and to business. Thanks to leadership of City Manager Mike Van Milligan, Chris Coleman of the IT department, and yes, David Lyons of Greater Dubuque Development, this dynamic was changed to a future we can all be proud of. And we can do it again with housing. Dave Lyons is unable to be with us today, and just as Dave was key to the team that put together the strategy for bringing fiber to the home here in Dubuque, Dave has been the tip of the spear for Greater Dubuque Development and working closely with your staff at the City Hall and with City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Alexis and others have been tremendously helpful. I wanted to make several points as it relates to Greater Dubuque Development's thoughts now on the ordinance or the change in policies that is, I believe, number 2 on your agenda tonight. 1, Greater Dubuque Development commends the Council's recent goal setting and the importance it has placed on housing. Thank you. 2, the proposed improvements for housing creation being presented tonight are needed, important, and timely. 3, Greater Dubuque Development is in full support of these improvements and believes they are a good start to what must be a larger and sustained effort on housing in our community. 4, additional housing tactics we would like to continue to explore with you include the following. How can we grow city programs to the scale needed? The city has many great programs to rehabilitate and create housing. They operate in the tens of units a year. We are short 1,000 units. How do we better balance historic preservation and our need for additional housing and viable, affordable neighborhoods? Not every building can or needs to be saved, particularly if it becomes the reason why other buildings won't be redeveloped in that area or new construction undertaken. How can we take a city staffing's needs and processes to move from being order takers to deal makers? In the past, housing has been about the city waiting for a developer or builder to call and helping them understand what is required to build in this community. That strategy no longer works. Like we have successfully done with broadband, we need to work together to find a way to convince people who have not considered investment in Dubuque that it is actually a great place for housing investment. And that Dubuque is a city that will help you keep your costs down and get your product to market quickly. As I said previously, Greater Dubuque Development is in full support of the proposal that you will be considering this evening. And we look forward to working with you and aggressively on communities' housing challenges and the other challenges we face. In each of these issues, whether it be a franchise, a bricks and mortar project, an existing building looking to expand, or a new industry looking at our community for the first time, the key to our success, to make our ghost of the economy's future a happy one, is to find a way always to yes. I'd be glad to answer any questions of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Questions or discussion, please? I have one. So,
Okay.
You mentioned, a couple things here, and I'm just curious, because I very much appreciate your candor this evening. I have to tell you that. I appreciate you coming in. We need to hear, this kind of goes along. I was going to talk about everybody else's comments before too, or later on in the evening, but we need to hear the difficult news that we have to hear about ourselves sometime. It's nice to be a cheerleader sitting where we're sitting. It's nice to be able to give people optimism and continue to cheer us on. But there are some difficult things that we truly have to face. You're right. In the goal setting that we talked about for our goals next year, I think we did discuss quite a few of those challenges pretty openly.
Yep.
And but at the same time, I think, one of the things that's always on my mind, and I don't know if I'm speaking, I doubt that I'm speaking for everyone here, but I think that one of the things that's always on my mind is where are we standing in our own way, and where, as a community, do we really need to continue to focus? Now, you mentioned housing and broadband as a couple of the answers to the challenges that you laid out in the beginning there. I guess my question is, do you have any other examples of ways from your perspective that you think that we really need to, focus our efforts right now because we might be standing in our own way as a city government or as a community and not allowing ourselves to flourish in a way that we really can?
It's not easy to run a city. It's not simple to be a mayor or a council person at any time, but perhaps especially these times. City management, whether it's in Dubuque or any other community, gets whipsawed between hold the line on spending and you're not doing enough, when really the two counter each other. I'm not at liberty to tell you what could have happened and didn't. I'm always looking at what can happen and how can we achieve that. I think the key is for the mayor and the council to embolden the city manager and staff to find yes, realizing that that can be complicated. But usually to get there, you have to be constantly diligent and never say, well, that's not going to happen, we're done. Because once you're done, that's not going to happen. So I just would encourage the mayor and council to focus on what the priorities are, as you did in August, to provide the resources necessary to achieve those things, to provide support for the city manager and his staff to get those things done, but realizing that resources must be provided. Honestly, Mayor, I know that the city takes pride in having the lowest property taxes in the state of Iowa of any metro, and I wonder, what could we do with the funds if we were in the middle? What could we achieve in the priorities that you've established as a council? What have we lost or what have we gained based on being the lowest? I'm not quite sure. But I know that other communities are more competitive than we have been. The Class A example is the housing issue, which, as I have said previously, we are tremendously proud of the changes that have been made by the city to address that issue of housing. Before it was, if you want to develop, here's the rules. Now it's, if you want to develop, here's what we'll do with you. A huge change that I think you gave the support to the city manager and staff to implement. I think the same changes need to apply to prospective industry, to existing industry. We need to think outside the box. The rules that used to apply yesterday or 10 years ago or 20 years ago can't apply now. And I'll tell you with sincerity that I think where we're at today is comparable to where this community was at in 1976, when everything we thought was perfect. This is the Dubuque that we want, 1976. We don't want anyone else coming in, and surely no one else will leave. We're in the cat's perch. And within 14 years, this community had lost 10% of its population. We can't be comfortable. We need to have a healthy sense of urgency. And I think only the mayor and council can provide that kind of support to the city manager and staff that work for you. And we, of course, stand ready and take pride in the relationship we have with this governmental body and with your team. And we will do everything we can to support you in your mission achieving the goals that you establish and those that may not be top priority but are still on the list.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick, I'm going to check in with you just to make sure you don't have anything else that you'd like to ask or add.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate Mr. Dickinson's input. I just want to say that as a city council, what we do is we listen to our citizens and we react to their input as well as we react to Mr. Dickinson's and others who give us great advice. So I think it's important to take Mr. Dickinson's viewpoints seriously, and we also need to listen to citizens. We want to help the entire community, but we don't do it by rolling over our citizens, and I'm sure he doesn't want us to do that either. The other thing is we have regulations for a very good reason. Those are protections for our citizens. Now, if there's a lot to talk about how much regulation we should or shouldn't have. I appreciate that, but we don't throw them out the door without really good reason and proof that they're going to be, that they're not needed before we just say forget about that. I'm all about encouraging businesses, and I appreciate the input of Mr. Dickinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. All right, well, I appreciate this discussion tonight. Thank you for your time and your message, and we look forward to seeing you again in another quarter and many times in between.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the motion is to receive and file and hear the presentation. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is housing creation incentive staff recommendations.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones, second by Farber. Mike, am I coming to you?
Yes, thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Stager is recommending the City Council adopt a resolution allowing the city manager to use the recommended housing creation incentives outlined to incentivize additional housing unit creation in the city, and is sharing a presentation on the housing initiative policies. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval, and now have Alexis Stager make her presentation.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Alexis.
Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Steger, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we currently offer for incentives for developers to come and bring residential units to the city of Dubuque, and then what we're recommending to expand on those incentives. So we're going to talk about two different parts of the code, and I'm going to try really hard to not get too legal in this, but there are two sections of the code that we're using for these incentives. One is urban revitalization, and one is urban renewal. They are very different from each other, so we're going to start with urban revitalization. So currently, we have urban revitalization areas, but our largest urban revitalization area is actually matches our CDBG areas, which are areas where there are more low to moderate income residents. The idea behind this revitalization area is to incentivize the rehabilitation or creation of housing units in this area to increase the values of the homes within this within these census tracts. What this urban revitalization does is gives anyone who makes an improvement to a property, it basically stalls the value of the property at its beginning, and then any value increase, the taxes on that increase are abated. So you do not have to pay those taxes for 10 years. You still pay on the original value of the home before any of the improvements, but you do not need to pay on that value of the improvements for up to 10 years. You do have to make at least 10% value increase to your home. So a lot of times it's not just a kitchen remodel, but a little bit more than that would jump into that 10% category. Any infill areas, same thing. The land value is where the taxes are halted, and then the building that is put onto that area would be tax-free basically for 10 years, and then it comes back into the tax rolls at the new improved value. So that is what we currently offer today, and it is isolated to the areas that are already designated, as you see on the map here. Anybody can access that. You do not have to come and ask for a development agreement. You do not have to get approval. The only thing you must do is certify the rehabilitation. So you do see those once a year as a city council. We present those to you before February 1st. And then it goes to the city assessor to make sure they freeze that value for those people that qualify. So we also would like to add to this incentive and have the ability to create additional areas for urban revitalization. We have done this in the past for LIHTC applications. So anyone who wants to do low income housing tax credit application to the Iowa Finance Authority, we will consider designating the area that they're going to build in as an urban revitalization area and provide that 10 years of tax abatement. So in this map here, you'll see Radford Road was one of those. We've got two developments going up there, one senior and one family. And those are that little purple spot and are its own urban revitalization area. The goal behind that is to incentivize developers to come in and actually provide affordable housing, so they give the full 10 years. Now, urban revitalization, the code, allows you to adopt 4 different schedules in different districts. So we're currently using the 10-year abatement in these districts that you see here. And we use them for low-income housing tax credits. Would like to continue to offer those 10 years in other areas throughout the city should a developer come and ask to add affordable units. If they would like to add market rate housing and they don't have public improvements for the site, so the site doesn't need sewer, it doesn't need streets, it doesn't need any additional public improvements to erect the housing units, we are proposing that the council add to the arsenal of incentives the ability to create a urban revitalization area with different schedules of abatement. So the other 3 schedules are 3-year abatement, full abatement for those 3 years. There is an option for 115% abatement, but there's some, you can't go over the home value. It's a little strange schedule, but that is for a full 10 years. There won't be very many people who actually qualify to use that one, but it would be something specialized that we could offer to a developer. And then there is a truncated schedule that it's less abatement every single year as you go along for 10 years. So you can start with 80 and it jumps, all the way down to the 20 by that 10th year that you're only getting 20% of the value of the increase. These are for market rate, so they're not the full 10-year of abatement that you need for a low-income housing tax credit development to make the return on investment make sense for a developer to come develop in that space. So that is our urban revitalization. I'm going to jump to urban renewal. Urban renewal is different in that it is tax increment financing. It is not tax abatement. So tax increment financing means you are still going to pay all the taxes on all the value, but then you have the ability to get reimbursed for any public improvements that you needed to make to bring the development to the city of Dubuque. For example, out on 32nd Street, there's Switch Homes has been brought to the city council as a potential development. What could be brought to council is an urban renewal district for that area, and the any tax increment that is generated by the increased value of those homes could then reimburse the streets that need to go in, the sewer connections, the sidewalks, things like that, that need to be public improvements for those homes. So we are proposing that we allow that to be a continued option that we utilize going forward. There would be some restrictions on how many units you'd need to create to actually bring that to the city council, just for feasibility of creation. An urban renewal district does take a lot of staff time and a lot of considerations that need to be taken into account. So there would be a development agreement that would be required. In those development agreements, both for urban renewal and urban revitalization, they are required to accept housing choice vouchers. They'd be required to bring fiber conduit to the area. And then in the urban renewal district, there is also an option to donate a piece of a parcel back to the city for a park, for a neighborhood park, and then we can use the TIF to build that park when the increment comes in. So it wouldn't be right away when the development's there, but when the increment's available to build that park. All right, so then we have the other new, the other one that we'd like the city council to consider is a mixed income residential subdivision, and this is under urban renewal. So the code says you may only reimburse public improvements, so you cannot use the tax increment financing for the actual structure that's being built in an urban renewal. However, there is an affordable housing percentage that's collected from the tax increment financing that is, it's about 40% for the city of Dubuque that we hold back to be used for affordable housing. And that's for affordable housing creation anywhere or affordable housing incentives for low and moderate income residents. What we're proposing for the council to consider tonight is that if you are going to do a development with mixed income, so you'll do affordable and market rate, that you would get a percentage of the affordable housing based on the percentage of affordable units that you're going to provide. So you do get some of that back, whereas if it is just market rate, you do not have access to that 40% of that tax increment financing, not even for public improvements. So we're proposing that we do add that in to incentivize that mixed income residential development. And then if we do, they also do have to accept housing choice vouchers, so that is just like the other one. So all of those agreements that came in would have to accept housing choice vouchers and do the installation of the fiber conduit, affordable or market rate. The other thing that we are proposing tonight is part of that housing TIF that is generated, the tax increment financing for the affordable portion, so about 40% of any tax increment generated under an urban renewal housing district. We have, we collect that as a city and we use it for funding things like the rehabilitation downtown of single family structures for first-time homebuyers, first-time homebuyer down payments. But we are also proposing tonight that when funding is available, that we would offer $10,000 per affordable unit created. This is for residential. Obviously, if you had a commercial building with residential above, only the residential portion would be eligible for that $10,000. No, the commercial building would not, their commercial section would not. And any of that can go to the construction of the actual building. Does not have to go to public improvements. So that can offset the developer's cost for the actual building to create affordable housing. It has to be affordable. By law, we cannot use that portion for anything but affordable units. So a developer would have to be bringing affordable units to utilize that $10,000 per unit creation. That is almost all I have. There was a question proposed to City Council, and I wanted to address it really quick. In the Iowa Code, it does allow the creation of debt on the city's debt for a private developer. However, the city of Dubuque has adopted a debt reduction plan and reiterated in 2015 that we have a public use for our debt. We need sewers, we need streets, we need utilities, and we're working on debt reduction. So we do not currently and are not proposing to City Council tonight that we allow developers to use the city's debt for incentives. The developer can still go to a bank and say, I'm going to get this revenue from my tax increment financing or from my urban revitalization and get a commercial loan. So they can still do that, and that is not part of the city's debt. And so that is what we encourage, obviously, the developers to do with that incentive when they need third-party funding. But we are not proposing today that the city take on that debt, as it does go against our debt limit if we were to do the debt on behalf of the private developer. So just as this was from your 2023 budget, just showing that we had adopted the debt reduction with your budget in FY23, and the proposal tonight continues that trend and allows you to continue to reduce the debt as you had proposed with your budget. And that is all I have, unless you have questions.
All right, thank you very much, Alexis. Questions, discussion,
Mayor?
Ms. Farber.
Yeah, Alexis, thank you very much for that very thorough and comprehensive plan, and kudos to you and your staff for that development, because I have looked at it not once, twice, but 3 times to kind of get the correct understanding of all the different areas that are involved here. And very, very impressed with the neighborhood growth enrichment, if you will. In other words, how it's going to be establishing in those areas that you mentioned to kind of expand. And I think after Rick had made his presentation, it is in parallel with the housing priority, and it is a good step. It's not going to be the answer, as we all have discussed. It's kind of a step in the right direction, and I fully support it at all levels of the discussion. So thank you very much, and thank your team for the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Ms. Weffel.
Susan, if you read it 3 times, I read it 7. Great work on this, and I don't pretend to understand it at the level that you present it, but thank you, because clearly it's been a lot of thought put into it by people who know. I think one thing that Mr. Dickinson said, which is our goal could be to grow city programs, and I thought the summary of how 5 properties were developed in the Change program, which were single-family homes, about 5 per year. 1 was through the Youth Heart program, and then additional through the Adult Heart program, and then 3 to 4 unit structures a year went back to rentals from the AHNI, is that right? Mm-hmm. With help from the Home Funds loan repayments. So when we talked about, or when he spoke of the tens of units a year, that's wonderful, because I know that the quality of that is fantastic for our city and for the families that get to have those homes. How, in addition to what you described, are there opportunities that we as a council could have to ramp those programs up? Because I think they employ and help, specifically the HEART program, to encourage youth to participate in trades. It gives them a life skill and the dignity of work for a lifetime. I just wonder if you have any other recommendations on to amp up those city programs.
Sure. So we have several different funding sources that can help amp up those programs, so it does not always have to be the housing TIF or things that we talked about tonight. We already have started working with the HEART program, and they have a new job coaching program. So we've actually done the adult HEART and a job coaching program with the city of Dubuque and from the council's support to amp up not only just from the youth, but as the youth ages out. They actually have another HEART program if they're not quite ready for the workforce yet, and they still have a workforce to go to with these other programs. So we are working with that. We are looking to change some of our housing trust funds to make sure that we can start doing more infill downtown with Habitat for Humanity. Currently, just the way that grant's written, it's not very conducive to that partnership, and we want to make sure that we strengthen that. So we'll be doing that with our application to them in October, and City Council will get a chance to weigh in on that application. So we are looking at strengthening those, but also the partnerships with the AHNI, so ANI. They're looking to actually amp up again. COVID kind of brought some people down, contractors weren't as available, and people are now chomping to get ready. Let's be ready for when we hit our next construction season to get moving. So they've got another 5 on their horizon, houses to get going, and we've had some other small partners that want to do the same thing. So we're working on increasing those as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mike.
I do think it's important to note, though, you know, we have been doing this for years with rehabilitation of downtown housing, and it's very, very expensive. But we do it because it's the right thing to do. You want these historic structures to get rehabilitated. You want the people that we partner with to rehabilitate their lives. And the HEART program is a perfect example of that, and there's others. But even with all the resources we're talking about bringing to bear on that component of creative housing in our community, we're probably talking 10 to 12 units a year, and that's on a good year. Because, you know, I look at some of the cost on some of these properties, $250,000, $300,000, $200,000, $400,000. So these projects, doing those one at a times, unbelievably expensive.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Ms. Rousseau.
Thank you. First of all, Alexis, I'd like to say thanks for the nice visual that you included in our packet. It really made a complicated topic very, very easy to understand. And it has so many different components that I almost hate to ask you about some more that might be included. The chamber had sent something really interesting about possible bonuses for density, which is a challenge in our community. There's not a lot of space for new homes, and also transit-oriented. You know, if people are low income, have difficulty getting to work and other places, you know, living near a transit stop might be very beneficial. So I wondered if you thought that something like that could be blended in.
Sure. So we do actually already blend in the transit portion of incentives. So when we are looking at a developer coming, we do maps to make sure that they're within a mile of a bus stop. It is something to work with transportation services on as well if there's not, and there's a good location for a big development, making sure that we can service that area, as well as other types of transportation. So making sure that it's walkable to grocery stores and other things if we're looking at affordable housing, that they have enough parking when it's not. So we're building transportation in. Just not direct incentives to a private developer because they're not part of that. That's part of our part. When it comes to the density bonus, it is something that would be something to consider in a budget because it is general funded. So tax increment financing does not allow for contributions for a bonus, for concentration, things like that. So at this time, presenting to you today, we've already adopted the fiscal year 23 budget. It is something that you could consider for adopting in future budgets if you wanted to increase the incentives as we move along.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Yeah, thank you. So the Dubuque Community School District is an important partner with the city, and I believe they're affected by these new proposals. have they been included in discussions? They've always been supportive of our of building the community through tax incentives, but are they on board with this as well, please?
This is City Manager Mike Van Milligan. So I meet monthly and have for the last 10 years with the school superintendent. And I've made 2 presentations to the Dubuque Community School Board on our use of property tax incentives to encourage growth. And while we didn't specifically present this proposal to them, all the concepts in here are concepts that we've discussed previously. And in every case, they've been extremely supportive because they see what's happening across the state of Iowa, where communities, many communities are losing population. You know, Clinton is a perfect example. It's a community very near us, not quite as big as us, but it's right on the river. And I think they lost 6% of their population in the last 10 years. And so the Dubuque Community School District superintendent and board, I believe, has always been very aware that we, as the city, have a responsibility to help encourage development in our community, and that without housing, they're not going to have any children living in houses that don't exist. And so while we did not specifically hand them this document and ask for their input, I can tell you that every concept that is in here, we've discussed many times.
And if I could.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go right ahead, please.
That's okay. I just wanted to point out that when we use urban renewal, the Dubuque Community School District, Northeast Iowa Community, their instructional support levy is still paid. It's not held back from that tax increment financing. The physical plant equipment is, their general fund debt is also. So they are still getting their, what are kind of considered their most important funds based on the Iowa code. They're still getting the tax from that. And then every time we create a district, the taxing body, which is the Dubuque Community School District, does get the opportunity to weigh in on that district. And we require public hearings for that purpose to serve them that ability. So that if there was ever something that came up with the school district, they had the ability to come to the city council to express that.
Mr. Mayor?
What?
And I thank you, Alexis, for that reminder. So basically what that comes out to is when somebody gets a business or a developer, in this case for housing, gets a tax increment financing rebate, it's not really 100% rebate. It's a 90% rebate because of all the things that Alexis just pointed out that don't get rebated. So the instructional support levy to both the community college and the Dubuque Community School District, and any debt payments that are paid by general fund by us, the city of Dubuque, by Dubuque County, or by the Dubuque Community School District or NICC. So there are many things that are taken out so that it doesn't go into the rebate. But the other thing is the state of Iowa also refunds the school districts across the state for a percentage of any of value that's captured in tax increment financing districts. I'm not 100% sure of the formula. I think it's about 50%. So that is another way that the school district are able to recover some of the money that is rebated to businesses and developers.
Thank you very much for that good information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
Just one more thing and follow up to Ms. Roussel's comments. I know that we discussed that housing is a significant priority for our city, and I would encourage and would be excited about the next steps. So not only tonight's steps moving forward, I think the promotion of density is a great movement when we can. So maybe for your team into the future, I'd really appreciate more information on that moving forward. And then the transit-oriented development. I think, yes, today, but then what's next? Because we need to push the edge of this. We need to be ahead. So thank you.
No one's, Mr. Sprang? You good? Okay. Thank you very much for this presentation. I agree with everybody else that this has been, it's a complicated issue, but at the same time, you've made it very palatable to be able to figure out how this all works. We had some understanding, but then adding to it, doing something new is always something that's going to be something we're all going to have to get used to, both on the council and then just in the community as well. One of the things that I absolutely love about this proposal is that it's been 3 weeks or so since we had our goal-setting session, and here we are already with a proposal from your department. So that's excellent work to be able to have that stuff ready to go. I can kind of tell you were chomping at the bit to be able to move forward with some of these things because here we are. Plus, ideas abound. I mean, we had ideas from GDDC tonight. We have ideas from the chamber that are within here. This tells me that I think this bodes well for the future. That this is, yes, I fully support this tonight, and I would love to see more. I agree with Ms. Wethel and everybody else here that I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do, what other ideas we can have to be able to push this forward. With that said, I feel the need to say this out loud because it's kind of a theme that's been coming together tonight in both Mr. Dickinson's presentation and then also in yours. Doing this is going to take some guts. It's going to take some real challenging decisions. And I have to say most of them are going to fall right in our lap. I mean, these are going to be the kinds of things where we have to decide on how much do we decide that we want to stick with this debt reduction strategy as it sits today, or do we want to strategically use our debt capacity as a city to be able to solve some of the most pressing problems that we have? I think that's a question that we're going to very directly have to answer, and I think we're going to be answering it in the next 6 months or so. So it's going to take guts to do that. It's also going to take, I think, some difficult conversations. We're having one here tonight. We've had a lot of people come up and talk about some of the challenges we have with housing. We're talking about some of the most vulnerable people that we have in our community, but then also a need that every single person has. I mean, we all need somewhere to stay, somewhere to live. This is something that is a very basic human need, and we lack it in a big way in Dubuque right now. So I think the fact that we're very focused on this, a positive, we might not all agree on the solutions at all the time, but I think a big positive is we have a lot of caring people in this community who really want to solve this problem. They're all coming together to do it. And I sincerely appreciate that from where we're sitting today. The last thing that I'll point out, because I think, it's nice to talk about this. It's great that we have these tools right now. But I think it's really important that we point out that these tools that currently exist are not are tools that are under attack, oftentimes, from our state legislature. I think it's also going to take some advocacy at the federal level. And that is very much our job, and really everybody's who's here tonight, to be able to have these discussions with the people who are making the laws at the state level and the federal level to say, we need these tools to be able to get this done. We need, for instance, to continue to have our own taxing authority as a city, which is something that very well could come under attack in our state. I think it's important that we advocate for the needs that we have as a city, as an elected body, to say that we can do this. We have the ability to listen to our community members, as Mr. Resnick pointed out, and move forward with the best decisions that we can have for our city. We don't need somebody else to do that for us from the state of Iowa or from Washington, D.C. So I think it's important that we continue to advocate for having these tools on the table to be able to use them. I don't think I asked any questions in that. That was a bit of a soapbox, but I think it was important things to say because while these are really tough discussions, I'm incredibly excited to be having them because it feels like we are moving towards solutions in a way that we've been waiting to do for a while. So I appreciate everybody's input tonight.
Mr.
Yeah, Ms.
Mayor,
Farber.
and thank you for those comments, especially on the taxing authority. And in reading, talking about Moody's, when we read about our city review for our bond rating, one of the things in their footnotes, and it's very important to read those footnotes, I believe, is that they were very impressed that we were a taxing authority and we would have that ability going forward. And this may be one of those examples where we take a look at our taxing authority in addition to what our bond reserve requirements are to move forward and to move forward more fast, if you will, and to get to that yes, or to be proactive in obtaining that yes, because I do believe that the old adage is it takes money to make money, and sometimes we really need to kind of think about how to best use that authority depending upon the situation, and step by step, year by year, what that recommendation might be. So thank you in advance, Alexis, for thinking about that as you present to us going forward on the next steps. I think it's very, very important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for this discussion. So we have a motion by Jones and a second by Farber to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick. Councilmember Resnick.
I think I heard a microphone drop there.
Yeah.
We've all done that. Phone just falls right off the table. Your ability to talk with it. Councilman Resnick, we are unable to hear you right now, just so you know. Okay, Adrian, we can move on if you like. Okay, then that motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 3 is amending tax increment ordinance 21-22 for the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District as amended by version 22.2 of the amended and restated plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Jones, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Following City Council approval of version 2022.2 of the amended and restated plan, Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending that the City Council approve the ordinance which would remove from the TIF ordinance area that portion of the district that was removed from sub-area C of the district by version 2022.2 for the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District. The removal of property from the district is required to accommodate the issuance of urban renewal tax rebates under the development agreement by and among the City of Dubuque, Iowa, Green Industrial Properties, Innovation Properties, and Green Industrial Supply. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick. Does not appear that he's with us.
Councilmember Resnick is on the phone. He appears to be having mic issues and asked if he could register his vote by chat, if I read it into the record.
Are we?
We're going to call that a first, but sure, as long as we've got a record of it.
We're able to do that? Okay. So,
Resnick, if you are able to hear us and you can enter your vote in the chat, I'd be happy to read it. And he votes aye on this.
all right, thank you, Councilman Resnick. That motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Jones, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is amending tax increment ordinance for Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District as amended by version 2022.3 of the amended and restated plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Following City Council approval of version 2022.3 of the amended and restated urban renewal plan, Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt an ordinance, amending ordinance for the Dubuque Industrial Center Economic Development District. The expansion of the district is required to accommodate the issuance of urban renewal tax rebates under the development agreement by and among the City of Dubuque, Share Real Estate, and Dubuque Screw Products. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Roussel, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wetzel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is fiscal year 2023 Arts and Culture Operating Support Grant Funding Recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and approve.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Jones, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Arts and Cultural Affairs Coordinator Jenny Peterson Brandt is recommending City Council approve the funding recommendation from the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission for grant awards to arts and culture organizations through the city's fiscal year 2023 Arts and Culture Operating Support Grants Program. $250,000 was approved City Council for fiscal year 2023 for the Arts and Cultural Operating Support Grant Program. This program offers limited, unrestricted support to eligible arts and cultural nonprofit organizations operating within Dubuque city limits that demonstrate a commitment to serving the community through access to arts, arts education, and cultural heritage experiences. Per standard operating procedure, this funding is awarded annually through a competitive application process, with applicants responding to program guidelines and application questions previously reviewed and approved by the Arts Commission and transmitted to City Council. In fiscal year 2023, funding awards are based on an average of the organization's certified operating expenses from their fiscal year completed prior to March 17, 2020, and their most recently completed fiscal year. The maximum funding an organization can receive is calculated at 6% of that average, not to exceed $30,000. 19 applications were received. All 19 applicants were eligible for funding per the program guidelines. The request for funding across all applications in fiscal year 2023 was $303,808. Applications were reviewed and scored by a 3-person panel, independent of the Arts Commission. Bell Tower Theater, $15,500. Dubuque Symphony Orchestra, $27,400. Dubuque Chorale, $2,400. Dubuque Arts Council, $3,200. The Dubuque Museum of Art, $26,200. Julian Dubuque International Film Festival, $13,100. Dubuque County Historical Society, $25,000. The Grand Opera House, $25,000. Colts Youth Organization, $25,000. Fly By Night Productions, $700. Dubuque Arboretum and Botanical Gardens, $19,900. Music Men Barbershop Chorus, $700. Key City Creative Center, $3,600. Dubuque County Fine Arts Society, $3,800. Creative Adventure Lab, $22,700. Rising Star Theater Company, $3,200. Heritage Works, $11,900. Northeast Iowa School of Music, $13,000. Downtown Dubuque Cultural Corridor / Dubuque Main Street, $8,100. So the total fiscal year 2023 operating support funds to be awarded are $250,400. There are no new budget impacts. The fiscal year 2023 approved budget includes $250,000 for arts and cultural operating support grants. An additional $400 is available through the fiscal year 2023 Arts and Culture Special Projects Program. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Let me just say that since we started doing this decades ago, the arts have exploded in Dubuque, and it's fabulous, and I'm glad we did that, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I have to concur. At the end of the summer in particular, I'm struck by how much life the arts breathe into our community. I don't know about the rest of you, but even just today is a perfect example. We welcomed a new cruise ship down to the Mississippi River at the port. Viking came today, and it was a great crowd. As people got off the boat, as people waited, they were walking around and looking at the art on the river. And I saw people stopping in numerous places downtown looking at murals, and I see people enjoying music activities, the last summer festivals, all those different things. And this is what this does. It's an incredibly important part of who we are in Dubuque. So I'm very happy that we do this every year. All right. Then we have a motion and a second. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 6 is recommended updates and enforcement regarding unhoused residents.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed to be suspended.
Second by Farber.
And a motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Assistant City Manager Corey Burbach is recommending City Council adoption of changes to the camping ordinance and inoperable vehicles ordinance to provide additional tools for enforcement when necessary regarding unhoused individuals camping on public or private property. Corey also recommends the city continue to explore a secondary responder model. A secondary responder model attaches a team of caseworkers that connect the resident to appropriate resources and negates the need for additional nonprofit partners to fill gaps that are already filled appropriately by other organizations. This model will require dedicated full-time equivalent employees to be effective. Although those full-time equivalent employees are not being requested today, there will be a need in the future consideration. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval, and Assistant City Manager Corey Burbach has a presentation to make.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you for the opportunity to provide some additional information this evening. It was clear based on the questions that we were receiving that we needed to provide some clarity to this strategy and the other strategies that are happening simultaneously and are planned. And so I hope that this presentation that Alexis Steger and I are going to make will help to answer some of those things. So I want to be clear about what staff are recommending tonight, and that's that we're recommending clarity in 2 city ordinances that do impact unhoused residents, but also have other implications. And we're going to talk about those when I describe the ordinance change. I also want to be very clear that this is one piece of a complicated issue, and there are several other actions that are being taken simultaneously that Alexis will talk a little bit about, and some planned next steps that we'll talk about. So why now? Alexis is going to share an image on the screen, if we could get some help from the folks in the back, from the state annual report on homelessness. And what you'll see is that there is clearly an increased need to serve homeless populations. There is an increase in the cost of housing in our community and in the state and in the nation. And there's decreased access to funding to support these populations that we in Dubuque are competing against other communities in the state for. Additionally, we have received a pretty significant increase in complaints this year regarding unhoused individuals who are camping on public streets, in parking ramps, on public and private property. And individuals camping in parking ramps in particular have caused almost a daily staff cleanup issue that we've encountered. And I want to be clear that those aren't healthy places for folks to live either, right? We want to find places that are safe. Parking ramps, structures under overpasses, places like that don't have hygiene facilities, often involve some hoarding behaviors. They're behaviors and actions that we want to find better solutions for. So staff began meeting this spring as we started to receive these increased complaints of individuals camping in inappropriate locations. Staff have spent significantly more time and resources cleaning up property left behind or messes created, particularly in our ramps this year. As a data point for you, in 2021, we posted 5 camps, and I'll talk about that process in a little bit, but essentially posting and asking the individuals to clean up and vacate the premise, and our staff cleaned up 1 location in 2021. To date, this year, we've posted 15 camps, and our staff have cleaned up 11 of those locations. So we are seeing an increase in need. I want to be clear that our first response is always to get the individuals, the shelter, the resources, the treatment they need. And that enforcement is our last response, but it is an important tool to have when it's needed. So typically, police and housing staff are the primary departments that work with local shelters and nonprofits to find a fit for those needs. And if we need to move to an enforcement staff, that typically happens through our police department. So as an example of what one of those instances may look like, and a situation in which we're looking for some additional tools in the toolbox, earlier this summer, we had a couple weeks where we had a particularly high number of individuals that were living in the parking ramp across from the Dubuque Rescue Mission Garden. We received a number of complaints from the public about concerns for their safety as they were in that space. And as we got to know the individuals that were living there, we learned a few things. One of the individuals had been at a local shelter multiple times, but could not stay at that shelter because they had challenges being in a small space with other individuals. In the past, they were able to move that individual into a standalone housing situation, but that had not worked out. And so they were back in this situation. Another one of the individuals was no longer welcome at shelters in the community due to substance abuse issues. And another one of the individuals told our officers very specifically that they had the means to have a roof over the head, and they chose this lifestyle very intentionally. And I don't share those examples to say any of them are good or bad, but they're instances in which we could have brought them to a shelter, but it wasn't working in that instance. So when we do need to move to an enforcement option, because we have a camping situation, individuals are first served a notice of violation, and that notice tells them that they have 48 hours to relocate themselves and their belongings. And most often, that's what happens. If they do not follow through with that action, that's when our Public Works Department will come in to clean up the site if it is on public property, excuse me. If it's on private property, we work with the private property owner to move through that process if they agree to it. So at the same time we're presenting this recommendation to you this evening, we're simultaneously working with service providers to increase capacity in our community, looking at some of those funding barriers that we talked about. We're partnering with other organizations to provide better brain health services to our community. You heard earlier this evening how we're exploring incentives to create more affordable housing in our community and other strategies. Tonight's recommendation specifically addresses a gap that was identified by a staff in one tool that we can use when we do need an option for enforcement, and it provides clarity for all residents about what they can and can't do on public property. The change to the inoperable vehicle ordinance is actually something that we've talked about for a while, not just in this case, but for other challenges that we've had with enforcement. The way the ordinance is currently written, if a vehicle moves at all, and that can be pushed 6 inches forward from a parking space, even if it's not operable, it meets the letter of the law. And so the change that we're proposing would not only address when we have some street storage issues, but it would address some of those other challenges that have come up in the past. And then the definition of camping clearly states what we mean by camping to include storage of personal belongings, cooking, sleeping, or establishing temporary structures on public property. So again, I want to reiterate that both of those enforcement options are our last option and only one piece of this complex issue. And so I'm going to turn it over to Alexis at this point to share a little bit about the secondary responder model that we're exploring.
Sure. Alexis Steiger, Housing and Community Development Director. So we're looking at a lot of different models throughout the nation that is called secondary responder. So we have our first responders, which are the police, the fire, traditional response. But a secondary responder is someone that is there to help walk residents through what their next need might be. Some models have that secondary responder actually responding with the first responder because people are more apt to follow through a secondary help if that person's there during crisis. So that's one model that we've been looking at as maybe that's something we can do. Other secondary responder models are after the fact, and they look at the calls from first responders the next day, see which ones need some follow-up, maybe need some resources, and try to make contact that way. In all of the models, it is more of a social worker or caseworker that is the secondary responder. And they are trained to know what the community has to offer for resources in all aspects. It could be housing, it could be substance use, it could be many, many things. They need access to food. They need some neighbor relations. They need to work with their neighbor a little bit more. It could be anything. But what that secondary responder model does is attaches that social worker to that person until their needs are met in the community. So until those nonprofit partners can pick them up and actually take them off their coordinated entry lists and get them involved. For example, we had 2 instances, both on Salina Street, where people were living on the street for months, which then became humongous kind of junk piles. One of them liked to collect anything they could find around the community, but they had aspirations to be somewhere else. So finally, I attached as their caseworker to one wanted to move to Minnesota, and that was his aspiration, was actually to be moving to Minnesota. It took me visiting 3 times a day, including on weekends, to motivate him to get his RV to move, to have the parts. It was very hot out. It was very hot when we were working through this, May through, he left around July, and every single day, trying to get him to motivate and move, and it worked. He did. He got along. He moved to Minnesota, and then Public Works came and cleaned up the rest of the junk that was left behind. So great success. However, it did take your housing director 3 times a day to attach to make that work. We had another couple living on the same street, just across the street, who also got my 3 times a day because they were right across the street. And they are not as much of a success story. And part of that is because I went to a conference. And they were in the middle of moving because they needed to move because of kind of the area they'd taken over was actually private property as well as public property, and they wanted them moved. The problem was their phone became inoperable, no longer can get in contact with them. I had gotten them on the coordinated entry list. They had gotten pulled off the coordinated entry list, which gives them the opportunity for housing. They had the unfortunate eviction prior to that, had just been evicted. There wasn't any other issues, they had just been evicted. Unfortunately, we couldn't find them for over 2 weeks. And so when they got pulled off coordinated entry, they no longer were served, and they moved on to the next person. And then we found them 2 weeks later, and now they're in the South Port. Set up a tent on public property right against a flood wall, which is actually quite dangerous. So had them move again, and then we couldn't find them. Showed up on Kaufman. So we're still, that was in May as well, and we're still working on that. So secondary responder will help attach to continually have those contacts to make sure that people who are resourced continue to have access to those resources, especially in Dubuque. They'd been referred to Resources Unite, and they had to bike to get there. So they were biking all the way out to JFK, biking all the way back down for lunch at the Mission, biking all the way back out to JFK to get their services, and coming back. We also had to, as a city, we have a Guardian Angel fund through one of our partners, and provided them a storage unit because they'd been evicted, so they had just all of their household belongings with nowhere to go with it. And had that for a month, but the only thing open was Green Acres, which is on Northwest Arterial. So they were biking out, trying to get their stuff into the storage, biking back. These are just resources we have to get together, and a secondary responder model helps us bring all of that together with our partners. So we are looking at lots of different models. It's likely going to need, like we said, a full-time equivalent employee to be successful. There are models like Marshalltown, Iowa, that we are looking at as successful models, and they're keeping track of outcomes. So we'll be presenting more of that as we move forward. However, we're at the first stages, so we have to bring all of our partners from the community together to make this work. Kind of like you heard tonight at public input, we're not to that point yet. We haven't even started the community input, and that's why we say we know we're going to have a need, but we don't know what it is yet because we haven't heard from everybody. And we don't know how to bring all those resources together effectively. So we're going to continue to work on that. And I believe that's all we have, unless you have questions.
Thank you both. Appreciate that. Okay, discussion and questions. Yeah, Ms. Rousseau.
Thank you very much, and I especially appreciate the clarity that you've added here. I was a little confused just based on the information that was in the packet. I served on the Almost Home Shelter Board for many years, and so I know that there is a wide range of reasons that people become homeless, and their needs are very diverse. I'm really glad to see that our first step is to connect people with the places and organizations that can address their needs. It's really a caring approach, and it makes me feel good that our community does that. And when Mr. Mim talked about the compassionate police department, we experienced the same thing at that shelter where the police were so compassionate with the people they might find in the park or and bring them to our shelter, and I was very impressed. I wondered if you could clarify just a little bit how the service providers are going to fit in. How do you plan to work with them so that they can meet the needs of the people that we're finding along the way?
Well, currently there's a coordinated entry line for that purpose, and our partners are all aware of that, and they actually pull from those lists. And so our first reference point is getting people to the coordinated entry line so that service providers can meet the needs, and the needs are listed on that list. They need food, they need shelter, and they pull from that list. We also connect them to obviously known resources that maybe don't pull from coordinated entry, like Iowa Legal Aid and things like that. So we're bringing them already into the fold because the community came together to do that and that coordinated entry line, and our partners are all on board with one space for that. But during COVID, it got a little bit truncated, and everyone's trying to provide everything that they possibly can because there was such a great need, and we're looking to bring that back. And so our service providers need to tell us how to bring that back. Is it back to the coordinated entry line, which is what we're still using, but some people are pulling off of maybe not a coordinated entry line just because they're really trying to assist. So we got to bring that back, and that's where public input and our service provider input is going to help.
And one last question is, if in the future we do have an FTE that's assigned to this, it seems that it could actually be a financial savings going forward to help people to make a final, to have a solution instead of constantly, as you described, trying to find the people as they move from place to place. It seems like an investment in coordination will be a savings and just an investment in the whole process. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
We did hear from a handful of people today that were concerned that we shouldn't pass this ordinance because of other things that need to be done. And I think we need to pass the ordinance because people that I trust tell me they need it to operate. And I think that all of the things that are suggested that need to be done are also being done. I don't think they're being abandoned or being overlooked. I don't think this was the solution. This is a small piece of the problem and a small piece of the solution that our law enforcement professionals and housing professionals are telling us that they need to move this problem along. I think the approach has always been compassionate. I think that the ordinance is a last resort. And just a footnote, this inoperable vehicle thing has been a bugaboo for a decade or more in the city. That needs to be codified and taken care of. We can't have junk on the streets for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and sometimes years. We've got to move that along, and bringing that into this conversation was probably a good idea. But I think that every single idea that was presented to us today, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, don't pass the ordinance. I agree, we got to do all those things, but we need the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Farber.
So I agree with my colleagues here, and just wanted to point out that I think it's very important that we look at the public safety of this and the health concerns. And we just want to make sure, and I thank you in advance for all that you do as always, that these are very relevant issues for the city to be aware of and to be concerned about, especially since COVID. So I agree that we need to help and to be compassionate about safe living arrangements. And then in parallel, all the things that are being done here, I think are putting our health and our safety of our community first as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. I heard crackling from Mr. Resnick. I know he's got something to say on this one, just because I know he's jumping in the conversation. So,
Councilman Resnick, are you able to speak? If not, he did enter something into the chat.
yeah, are we still okay with any?
Adrian and I have conferred, and
Yeah.
the chat record can be retained, and so we can add it to the record for purposes of the meeting.
Okay, so Mr. Resnick can enter things into the chat to be able to provide some input, and Corey could simply read them for us aloud? I mean, they're in the record already, but Corey could read them aloud for the purpose of
And then
discussion.
for record-keeping purposes, it will obviously show that it was Mr. Resnick participating.
All right, thank you, Krenna. Then let's go ahead and hear that, Corey, please.
So Councilman Resnick says, this action proposed tonight is not perfect, but it is a definite improvement. This is an important issue and inaction is bad for everyone. Let's continue to move forward, make this incremental improvement, and then continue to incorporate more community input to find an even better solution for all of our citizens.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Resnick, if you can hear us. We've been in your position. It's a difficult one when you're sitting by yourself in a room somewhere and having to be a part of this discussion. So thank you for your efforts on that. Ms. Wethel.
I do want to reiterate, again, multiple interactions with constituents in the last 24 to 48 hours regarding this. And I appreciate everyone being here tonight and your statements of passion and compassion. It's very powerful. I would prefer to, and I will not support this tonight without a plan that is more concrete for the FTE caseworker. I feel that it's an important piece to execute the concerns of my constituency for the homeless population. Now, I know that what you have proposed applies to individuals who are not homeless as well. I have these experiences in my own neighborhood in which your changes would apply. I do believe that we can act more swiftly on creating the secondary responder plan. As far as supporting an FTE, I support that. And I will tell you that if that was included in this tonight, I would support it. And so it's not that I do not believe that this is an important piece. I do, but I think we can improve it, and I think we can do it quickly. This I have shared with constituents. You did not just bring this to us for fun. You brought this to us because it is a significant issue for which I believe we all have heard from constituents that there are issues that need to be resolved, and this would help. I just want to make sure that we get it right. And I think a caseworker model of a secondary responder would be the next step, but we can do it now. And I would encourage us to continue it, if this does pass, for us to do that very proactively. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Mr. Sprank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, it's a tough issue, and I do appreciate all the time you've already put into it. The plan's coming along from what I hear as well. I feel, though, it still needs a little more formulation, a little more clear guidance. Would 2 months be a good time, or how much more time would you think you would need to have a little more stable foundation on this, if you needed it?
Well, I'm going to respond to that because we think we do have a stable foundation here. So, I mean, there's other work to do, but we think we have a solid recommendation to move forward tonight. So there's not as if there's a time period to define that.
Okay. Got another question for you, Alexis. Approximately that individual that you had to meet with 3 times for how many months?
May to late July.
20 hours a week?
Probably at least that. My kids actually knew them quite well because they came with me at night and on weekends.
Thank you. But that's an example of, if we have 5 individuals, that's how much time we're going to need. And that's a budget idea that we can throw out, an idea, not tonight, but that's how much the funding will be required for this individual, up to 40 to 60 hours, I would assume, in all honesty, which is, and then you're looking at 2 people. So it's something to think about if we're going to look at a caseworker of some sorts. Didn't, though, last year we agreed to help the county with something with this, with a caseworker? Do we have any update on that? I thought we...
That's a little bit different than this.
Okay.
So the county is, and I don't remember us about the helping part, but I do know the county is and actually has implemented already a social worker, but it's not related to this issue.
Okay.
It's related to responding to brain health calls and assistance with that, so that the police aren't dealing with the brain health issues and dealing more with crime issues. I think that's more accurate what that is.
Yeah, it is more focused towards the brain health, more the crisis intervention piece. Currently, our police department has crisis intervention team kind of built within, so it could be patrol, it could be a captain, they're all trained within. And part of why we're not bringing more to you on the secondary model is not just community input, but we have to decide, is the crisis intervention team part of that secondary responder team, and does it, need to come out of being embedded in other roles like patrol and be their own as well. So there's just a lot of moving parts to a secondary responder. It's not just one social worker. It's also who supports that. Who has all of the community resources to bring them together. Marshalltown uses 2, so when you do talk about, how many you need, we really need more information to bring to you. We can't just do this tomorrow and say we have something to bring to council for consideration, because why authorize one when that won't do it? Or, why authorize one when we have something we can reuse within what we have? So it's just, our nonprofits may have some support for this and be able to provide support that we need half an FTE. There's not a good way to bring that to you right now.
One question.
One more
and
from
then-
Mr.
and then I
Spank,
promise
and
I'm
then
done.
then I'll come to Mr. Jones and then Ms. Roussel.
If approved this, would we be able to provide direction tonight to have like a quarterly update on this process?
Are you talking about adding a quarterly update on the overall situation, or adding another staff member?
I think overall situation, so.
Because the idea of adding a staff member, if I'm hearing correctly, is a part of the budgeting process that we'll be going through in the spring, correct? Is that what your thought is as staff?
That would be the intent. And while it says adding full-time equivalents, it doesn't necessarily mean adding them to us.
Right.
So there might be some partner organization we work with or something, but those are all the things we have to figure out. And yes, our intent would be to do it through the city budget process, and then it's compared with all the other things that you'll have to consider and what you're going to do about as far as funding.
To clarify, Mr. Sprank, are you asking for an update on just this process in general, or if this ordinance were to pass, hypothetically, an update on how it's going?
Mainly how it's going,
used.
to see if this is being used or not utilized. So,
Mhm. I think, is that realistic for you all?
Sure.
Okay. A little cart before the horse there, but still a fair question, I think. Mr. Jones?
I was just going to make the comment that the other thing that the Sheriff's Department did was add a person doing social work inside the jail to help people transition back into, not being in jail. And I think that was a really important, awesome step that they took. But it's not about this.
Yeah.
Certainly. Ms. Roussel?
Thanks. I could tell from the people that reached out to me that they represented a lot of organizations that you work with, and they felt like they had something to say. So how would a nonprofit or a person, maybe someone in this gallery here, they want to provide some input to help you with this decision-making in the model? What should they do? how can they help you?
The city, not the city of Dubuque, but all of the partners that you see kind of here today, all actually meet in the Homeless Coalition for the city. And so those meetings are what we would start asking people to attend, people to give input on, because they are run, that entire get-together is run by the nonprofits that are helping in this situation. It is our shelters, it is those service providers, it's those bringing each one of those components to the table. So that's what I would encourage, is to start attending those meetings. Our police department also is, well, they're at every one of those meetings, so it's something that we could bring as a city to everybody. Obviously, public input at all of our meetings as well, and all of our housing commission, our community development advisory commissions are all going to be starting to take input on this.
Great, thank you for that.
All right. I still have several questions, actually, I think that haven't been answered, so I'm going to go ahead and ask those. First of all, though, let me say, the secondary responder model, absolutely. I love the direction that you're going with this. I've seen plenty of evidence across the country that this works very well. It is a cost savings, which seems counterintuitive, but it absolutely saves communities money. But it even more than that, it works to get people living where they can live safely, and it works to make sure that people are connected with the resources they have. And because we are talking about very difficult situations, very difficult cases. And Alexis, thank you for your work, very much. Thank you for the effectiveness of that work. But I cannot think of a less efficient model than having your housing director 3 times a week meeting in direct service in that way. It's just not a model that's sustainable in any way, shape, or form. You did that out of the goodness of your heart and because you believe in your job, but we definitely need something that's going to work in a sustainable fashion. Okay, one of the questions that I have is, and you sort of half answered it just now, but there were a number of people who said that they didn't quite feel this was sprung on them a little bit, and I've heard that from several people and very much appreciated all the input tonight, but also the input that we've received throughout the week. Is there something that we missed or something that we could have done better to communicate, or is there a better way to communicate going forward? You said that there's a homeless coalition that already exists, but it sounds like we need to make sure that that's functioning in a way that everybody's able to be around the table at the right time and hear from each other. Is there a way that we can communicate more effectively in the future so this doesn't feel sprung on people, I guess, is one question.
Yes, we can do better. I think, so the staff departments that were involved in this piece of the puzzle saw this as an internal conversation about cleaning up some code language, and we can reach out better as we move this forward.
Yeah. Okay, and I appreciate that answer. And it wasn't, and I don't ask that publicly to say that anybody was, not doing their job. I think it's just always a question to say, is there a way we can communicate better, be more effective in talking to each other, because we all care about this issue. So I appreciate that. I think it's good to know that there's some ways that could happen. And I think that sometimes you're right. Sometimes we think of things as a code issue, but it really is a very public one, and I'm glad that people caught on. Mr. Erba actually made a comment that I think is important in this because, he said he's, and I'm going to put words, I'm going to paraphrase here, so I apologize, if I get this wrong, but I'm paraphrasing in that you were very concerned about harassment of people and essentially the criminalization of people who don't have a home. I think that's a very valid concern because we've seen that in the country. We haven't, I want to say we haven't seen it here because we do have a caring police department and staff, clearly, who are working hard to try to provide people with resources. But it has become an issue in other places when ordinances like this are passed. So that connects to my other question. Why this ordinance now? There's a lot of things that you want to cover. Why is this that you want to do to be able to address this issue? Why are you bringing this ordinance to us right now in the process?
So the two pieces tonight, one, it's already an existing ordinance, and there's no definition of camping. And so you get to make your own definition of what camping might be. And so it's just a clarification. We took the national, accepted language of what camping is and gave it a definition. And that's just for clarity, so that when we do have residents that want to know, is what I'm doing okay, they have some clear definitions we can use. The police department can give them a clear definition of what about their camp means camping. So that's why one's being brought to you today, because that's a clarification our residents really require. And the other one is the parking. So those are the two things being considered tonight. And the parking update is just to make sure that they do not have the ability to just roll it 6 inches forward and roll it 6 inches back. In use, we don't take cars that people are living in. That's not an unhoused issue because we don't, like I said, the RV that wasn't working, we didn't just come take it. We worked for 2 months to help them get it running. So, in use, this is more about street storage and less about the unhoused when we talk about the updates to the parking.
I appreciate that. I think just a little further on that, there's a process we want to follow here. There's a lot of different things we want to do. And you've said that this ordinance is something that you don't want to have be the first step in the process. We're not going to start with enforcement, for example. But we are kind of starting the public discussion with a new ordinance on enforcement. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, this is what people in Dubuque are seeing first, is this. So I guess what I'm looking for is, what I hear you saying is that you do not want to use this except in very specific cases. But you're bringing it to us now, and is it because it's a simple thing that we can start with? I mean, is that kind of where we're at? Is like, this is something we can do right now, or is there
It's because the ordinance exists. So we have to use it today because it's an ordinance that already exists. And so we're just clarifying the definition of camping within that ordinance. A full review of that ordinance would be part of the secondary responder model if it somehow the enforcement becomes a way to criminalize homelessness. So that review would be something that's down the line as a really big review of that ordinance, but it exists today. The ordinance is in effect, and that's the ordinance we have to use. And so we really want to make sure that things are defined in that ordinance so that we can move forward to understand where to put camping throughout that ordinance as it's defined.
Mr. Mayor? if
Yeah.
I may.
Yeah, go ahead,
With
Jen.
regards to the inoperable vehicle ordinance, this is something that we have discussed off and on for a period of years, and adjusting it to make it work better, because we play a bit of a game of cat and mouse in particular situations, and we deal with a lot of citizen complaints related to inoperable vehicles, and this is throughout the community and not specific to unhoused populations. For example, I responded to a citizen complaint today about 3 inoperable vehicles in a household with 6 or 8 vehicles in a neighborhood that has absolutely nothing to do with unhoused individuals, but it's someone kind of playing a bit of the game with the ordinance we have currently that is flawed. So when some of these discussions came up related to this topic, it was determined that we should revisit that, as we have been trying to figure out the best way to clean that up and make it a more effective tool for our staff for a significant period of time, and again, not specific to the unhoused population.
Okay. That's helpful to know that context. I mean, that this is actually going to be helpful in the larger context of what that ordinance is. However, though, back to the housing conversation. So this is my last question. You've said enforcement when necessary as a last resort. Give us an idea when that is. I mean, how do what is the intent for how we might actually use this in this way?
I'm going to ask Assistant Police Chief Joe Mesrich if he'll come up, because those are the officers that traditionally are on the scene and making that decision.
Good evening. Joe Mesrich, Assistant Chief of Police. As far as the enforcement piece goes, so you heard the figures on the camps that we've posted. I think it was 20 since spring of 2021. We've written 0 tickets. Typically what our community policing officers do is they'll post it and then they'll check in the next day, try to make sure that things are moving along. And the citation is the absolute last resort because it just doesn't help the situation. They'll try to connect with services during that process, try to, get them to Resources Unite, refer them to the VNA, whatever the case may be. And people are generally appreciative of their efforts. As far as when does the citation come into play, or when would the arrest come into play, About the only thing that I can think of would be the person that's absolutely defiant. You know, we've identified a camp, unhygienic conditions. The person absolutely will not move on despite our best efforts, despite the efforts of our partners coming in to try to help the situation. And if the answer is still no, I'm not going to follow this ordinance, then yeah, we would probably see a citation. Luckily, though, in the last year and a half, we haven't run into that.
That's very helpful information. Thank you. Okay, so then I'll wrap up my part and then open up for any other questions before we move on. With all this said, I'm actually going to support this tonight. I think, and the reason is, I believe in our ability in this room, all the people that are here, to get together and take on the next steps of what's going on. This is, you know, whether we do this now or do this 3 months from now, it sounds to me like it's likely going to happen that we're going to do this. What I would like to see, though, is what Mr. Sprank suggested, is something to come back to us, let's say 3 months from now, to show us how is this being used? Have we written any of these citations? What is that situation? What's that look like? I would love to see that, because I think it's going to be important that we have transparency as we have this discussion with our community partners about what this is really going to look like. So I appreciate all the efforts on this. I really appreciate this long conversation about this, because I think it's an important one. But I am going to support it tonight for all the reasons that I've mentioned, but especially because I trust that this process is going to be working forward, and I know the people involved are going to be working hard to do it. So with that, any other discussion or questions before we move on? Okay, just a process question, Krenna, because I seem to forget this one all the time. With the waiving of the 3 readings, the votes required right now to be able to pass this with this particular motion would be?
6.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, with that then, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Nay.
Resnick.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes then, 6 to 1, sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Have a motion by Jones, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Nay.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 6 to 1. Thank you very much.
Action item number 7 is U.S. Department of Transportation Notice of Award, Rebuilding America's Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Infrastructure Planning Grant.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I move that we receive and file.
Second.
Motion by Farber, second by Roussel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Strategic Partnerships Terry Goodman and City Engineer Gus Ahoyas are providing information to City Council on the Rebuilding America's Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE Grant Award Notification Letter in the amount of $2,280,000 from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the RAISE Grant Building Bridges to Equity and Employment Grant application. The total project cost for multimodal improvements is $4,380,000, of which $2,280,000 is funded by the federal government through the RAISE Grant Award. The grant will be administered by the Federal Highway Administration in partnership with the Iowa Department of Transportation. The match funds for the grant are from 2 sources. City sales tax will provide $1,350,000 of the match, and the remaining $750,000 will be sourced from the new DRA Schmidt Island Improvement Fund. And you know, was Terry going to present the information?
Mike, I'm on.
Yep, that's what I was looking for. Oh, thanks. I was looking for you.
Sorry.
And are we going to?
Are you going to add something, Terry?
No, I thought you might have a question.
But if anybody has a question, she's here.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry. We appreciate that. All right, then I'll bring it back to the table for any discussion or questions. Then I'll just say, very excited to be moving forward on this project. Very excited. This is a great example of advocacy working and working well. And I'm very excited to see this move forward. So, Terry, thank you for your work, and thank you for sticking around to talk about this with us.
Of course.
All right. In that case, then, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 8 is work session request, Project Hope quarterly update.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones?
I move that the council schedule a work session for Monday, September 19th for quarterly update on Project Hope at 5:30 PM.
Second by Frank.
You want to add receive and file to that motion?
Sure, let's receive and file it as well.
Okay. We got a motion by Jones and a second by Sprank. That working for everybody? Appears to. All right. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 9 is work session request, inclusive Dubuque quarterly update.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel?
I move to receive and file and set the work session for Monday, September 19th.
Second by Farber.
At 6 o'clock.
Jumping the gun. So I've got a motion by Roussel, second by Farber. Also appears to work for everybody. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 10 is Field of Miracles game at Miracle League of Dubuque, Fox Sports Video.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones?
I move to receive and file and view the video and to tip our hats to Merle Sanger for being part of the glue that made this all happen.
Yeah.
Second by Frank.
Got a motion by Jones, a second by Sprank. I see Janet getting ready up there.
I don't know where my button is.
You're just right.
There you go.
Maybe we should put it.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity for me to speak on behalf of the Field of Miracles event that was held last month. My name is Jana Bowe, and I'm a program supervisor for the City of Dubuque Leisure Services Department. As part of my position, I've been given the opportunity to create all-inclusive programs for the Miracle League of Dubuque Park. These programs are created for, but not limited to, individuals with disabilities. Our current baseball program consists of spring and fall leagues, as well as supervised open field practices throughout the summer. The programs are open to all ages and ability and offered free of charge. Last summer, the City of Dubuque Leisure Services Department and Miracle League of Dubuque Board of Directors worked together in planning the dedication and the long-awaited unveiling of the playground and park. This event was to thank and celebrate the donors and the community members who worked endlessly to make this vision a reality. We decided that the best way to show supporters of how much this field meant to our participants and families was to invite our players to showcase their skills at an all-star game of their own. With the help of Fox Sports and Major League Baseball, we were able to coincide with Dyersville Field of Dreams and create our own Field of Miracles game. Fox Sports worked with the MLB to provide official jerseys for the players, with their names and numbers proudly embroidered on the back. They also provided marketing materials, event support, and creative guidance to ensure that we had a top-notch experience for our players and fans. This summer, we continued to celebrate our field and players by hosting our second annual Field of Miracles game. With our players dressed once again in official jerseys, this year as the Reds and Cubs, they were joined on the field by volunteers from Dubuque's high school baseball and softball teams, along with a surprise visit from the Field of Dream Ghost players. And as some of our council members mentioned at the last meeting, whether on the field or in the stands, there were smiles from everyone that morning. It truly was a miraculous day. I'm incredibly grateful to the Miracle League of Dubuque, Fox Sports, Major League Baseball, and our local vendors, volunteers, and our community as a whole for supporting the Field of Miracles game. Most importantly, I'm thankful to our players for the courage and pride they bring to our facility. I look forward to programming more events on the field, and I'm hopeful that the city will continue to support our players and vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. And I do know we have a video, but I want to say thank you to those of you who stuck around with us tonight to be able to watch this. I know you've seen it many times, but we're excited to all watch it together, so thank you. So we can roll the video when ready.
The Field of Miracles game is presented by Fox Sports, and they've helped us with uniforms and equipment, advertising and marketing, and just getting the whole community excited for this game. We take our individuals with disabilities, and they are playing leagues all year long, so we have divided them into 2 teams in correlation with the Field of Dreams game.
We'd like to think that this is the game that really showcases for the Dubuque community what we have for families that wouldn't be able to do this otherwise. If you're not here, the smiles on their faces, and if it's not their faces, just look in the stands and you'll find mom, grandma, grandpa, and there'll be tears in their eyes because this is probably the first time they've had the ability to not only be showcased, but to play with brother, sister, and have a great day.
That deserves a hand. Thank you, everybody, for a very successful game again this year. And what a great place to have in your city, isn't it? It's just a great place. So thank you so much for your work on it. Well, the motion was to receive and file and watch the videos. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel. Resnick.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 11 is delivering Dubuque Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support video.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and watch the video.
I'll second.
Motion by Sprank, second by Roussel. You can roll that video. An inclusive and equitable community where all are welcome. That's the vision for the city of Dubuque. But to be that, we have to be committed to the work. Today's episode of Delivering Dubuque is going to be about the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. And we're going to talk about the ways that it is leading the way to make sure that we're reducing the barriers that stand in the way for prosperity for everyone who calls Dubuque home. So just over a year ago in 2021, the City of Dubuque created a new department called the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support. So here today to talk to us about this new office is the director, Anderson Sancy. So Anderson, welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Kavanaugh.
Good to have you today. So this new office, it's a big undertaking. The name alone is a lot to unpack. Just give us a rundown of kind of what the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support is all about.
Yeah, thank you. So our mission is to address, prevent, and reduce poverty throughout the community, and not just for individuals, but also for communities. There's pockets of neighborhood that are experiencing poverty differently, and so what we want to do is figure out how to use data to make sure we're moving the needle to ensure that everyone in our community is experiencing prosperity. And we also have the neighborhood support side, where we're responsible for meeting with various neighborhood organizations throughout the community to make sure they are enhancing and also doing what they feel is best for their community.
You know, this office, I know, came from the fact that the City Council adopted something that we called the Equitable Poverty Prevention and Reduction Plan. So poverty is really a focus of this office. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what that means?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we had a consultant who came into Dubuque to understand how the economy was moving. And by talking to people and looking at the data, we recognized that there was a growing population that were experiencing poverty. There were people who were working and still not making a livable wage to support their families. There were issues like transportation and childcare that was disrupting families and individuals. So what we want to do as a department is continue to look at the data to understand what's going on at the local and state level when it comes to poverty. We want to collaborate with a variety of partners, public and private, to make sure that everyone is moving in the right direction when it comes to making sure we have livable wages, when it comes to childcare, transportation, just all of those indicators that will ensure that everyone in our community is experiencing prosperity, as we will say in our department.
So I've heard you say the word data a few times now. So it's not really just we're going to go and start doing these things because we think it's the best. We're going to do these things because it's what the evidence tells us, what the data is pointing at to say we need to go and do this.
Yeah, we want to be data informed in this department, right? We don't want to just do things because it's a feel good. We really want to not only look at local and state data, but also talk to real people and track what should people be making in the city of Dubuque in that context, and be able to share that data throughout the community with both public and private partners to make sure that if people are falling below that threshold, what are we doing collectively to scale those people up so that way they can have a good paying job to do whatever is best for them and their families, or for them themselves.
Yeah.
And I think the neighborhood side is a key. And so it's very important, once a month we meet with a variety of neighborhood associations throughout the community that have different ideas and projects that they want to work on that's important for their neighborhood association. And as we hear a collective voice of the challenges, we want to bring that to the decision table, because as we center those who are most impacted, they have the solution as well. We also have a small grant that supports neighborhoods and a variety of projects that they want to work on. It could be beautifications, it could be barbecues, you name it. Whatever community means for them, we want to support it.
And I know that we're going to be locating your office in Engine House number 1, right there on the curve of Central Avenue. Really cool old building, but it's right in a very important neighborhood. And this is on purpose, right?
Proximity matters. We think as we're located there, we're able to connect with real people who are experiencing poverty. It's just easy access for people to talk with us and to meet us at a central location where they feel safe and they're comfortable. And also for the neighborhood associations that are predominantly downtown, it's an easy place for them to come and eventually host their meetings, their events, to talk about things that they want to do to impact their community. And I think that's very important to have a central place for community members to hang out.
That's great. And it's so important to meet people where they are and to go to where people are, I think, to be able to actually have more of that relationship with them. We can't always expect everybody to come to us as a city and be able to explain what it is that's going to help them best. It's best for us to be there in the community helping them, I think.
And to be able to just listen to people, right? We don't have to have all the answers right away. Sometimes we just have to be able to listen and offer the space for people. And being there next to the central corridor, there's a direct connection where people who live down there see the city is investing in their community, their neighborhood. And again, we want to be part of the solution with them to solve the problems that they're facing every single day.
Well, we're actually sitting right in Jackson Park right now, and I know that Timwa and a group were down here working on a project, so I think I'm going to go talk to them about that. But I want to thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you coming down and having this conversation with us, and good luck with everything that you're doing in the office.
Thanks, Mayor Kavanaugh.
Well, Timwa, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for meeting today. So you're the community engagement coordinator for the city of Dubuque. So tell us a little bit more about what that means and kind of the projects that you're working on.
So as a community engagement coordinator, I just get the opportunity of being out in the community, building relationships, and just finding out what are some great things that are going on that people are excited about, but what are some things also that they want to see actually happening within their community. And part of that is through their neighborhoods and just getting connected.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we mentioned earlier, we're in Jackson Park. I remember one of those things that we did as a community engagement project was right here in the park, actually. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was actually a great opportunity for us to be out here, just to not only beautify the Jackson Park, but for the neighbors to actually get really excited about where they live. And the coolest thing is that the kids were so excited about it that they actually shared all this through word of mouth. You can never be too young to be engaged, right?
Yeah.
And so now they have something to be able to talk about with their friends, their family about that. They were able to be a part of this amazing project, but then now they also get to play with their friends on some fresh mulch. So
yeah, that's great.
Yep.
So another way that you get involved in helping people understand city government and the city of Dubuque is through a program called City Life, right? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that one too?
Absolutely. I'm so excited about that because the City Life has been an opportunity for community members to get involved and find out how the city actually functions. So they meet with 18 departments, they get actual tours where they see the facilities, they get to ask direct questions and find out exactly what they want to know. And then what's great about that is we always encourage our community members to get involved, and we tell them different ways that they can do that through like boards and commissions or with neighborhood associations as well.
Yeah. So using data to guide efforts, meeting residents where they're at, really delivering a Dubuque for all. I know it's early, but we are really excited about everything that the Office of Shared Prosperity and Neighborhood Support is taking on and what it's going to mean for the future of Dubuque. Well, thanks a lot for being here today to talk to us more about this, Tamla.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's a great day to be out here, isn't it? It really is an exciting new department, I have to say. All right, motion was to receive and file. Watch the video. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel. Aye. Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 12 is Welcome Dubuque College Students video.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and watch the video.
Second.
And a motion by Roussel, second by Jones. Roll one more video, please.
Hey Dubuque college students.
Welcome.
Marhaba.
Welcome.
Dubuque में आपका स्वागत है.
Welcome to the bluffs of our beautiful city. And now, your city.
Whether you're returning or venturing here for the first time, we're thrilled you chose Dubuque.
While here, know that the City of Dubuque has over 700 employees working to bring you the best of city services.
From the water you drink to the routes you take.
The projects you prepare for.
In the neighborhoods you become a part of.
The City of Dubuque is proud to be part of your everyday.
And know that if you have an emergency, we're only a call away.
Ensuring your safety at any hour, even if it's just burnt popcorn.
So, no matter what campus you belong to,
while here, may it be a semester, a year, or more,
consider Dubuque your home.
You got this.
Good luck.
Study hard.
Take a breath.
Experience Dubuque's beauty.
And enjoy what fall 2022 has in store for you.
I know Felicia's going to hate me for this, but we got to give props to Felicia Carner for all the work that she's doing on these videos. I mean, and the entire Public Information Office. I mean, they really are doing an incredible job of showcasing Dubuque and all we are with the videos that we see here. So I know we kind of turn into film study every single city council meeting, it seems, at the end, because there are so many great videos coming. All right, motion was to watch another video. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
What do we got? Ms. Roussel.
I was absolutely thrilled this morning to see 2 cruise ships on our Riverwalk, and more than that, to actually get on board one of them and tour it. It was fabulous, and there was such excitement and wonderful music from Councilmember Jones and his band. This is the place to be.
Thank you for that. It was an exciting morning, that is for sure. Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, and to complement that, it was amazing. I was there early, before 10:30, and the crowds were amassing already. I mean, the parking lot was almost full. People were just up and down the promenade, and it was mixed, actually. We had people from the other boat, in addition to the Viking boat, who were asking us questions, looking to be introduced to the city of Dubuque. Nothing but fun, and everybody was smiling and just admiring the beauty of the ship and just the awesomeness that Dubuque is going to have tours based on all of the people on the ship itself. And I think there were like 8 or 9 tours today just for those that were on that ship on the first voyage here in Dubuque. So that was quite thrilling.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was amazing to have Viking here for the first time. Leadership from American Cruise Lines was in town today, I know, and that was the boat that was sitting there. We've got the American Queen, the Twilight, just so much action in the port. It is absolutely amazing. Yeah. Ms. Wethel.
So I am fortunate enough to live in Ward 4. We are able to, from some perspectives, get to see the river. And my husband and I said this morning, today's the day. So we got our coffee cup and we actually were able to look out a window, and Bob said, it's here, it's here. And so we got our kids up and we went and checked it out. And then on my way down to the meeting tonight, I actually saw a bunch of folks, I'm sure they were actually going to get back on the boat tonight, getting a last-ditch effort to get up and see the Fenland Place elevator. So they were actually, quite a few people walking up the Fifth Street steps to come up and see it. So it's an exciting time, especially for my ward, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Jones.
Just say quickly that our former city clerk is one of the step-on tour guides for the Viking tours, and he was in action today and pretty excited to be there. So.
I can guarantee it.
And I bet the best guide ever.
Yeah. Knows a little bit about Dubuque, right? Well, the only thing I'll add is another event that happened that I just have to mention. There was a group called Project Rooted did another Rooted Table event, which is a community dinner that we had in the Washington neighborhood. And I have to tell you, it was just one of the most beautiful things that I think I've ever done in the city of Dubuque. Just people from all over, but especially people from right there in the neighborhood where the tables were right set up, all eating together, getting to know each other. As multiple people said, becoming friends by the end of the night. I'm looking forward to more events like that in Dubuque. It was really wonderful. So I appreciate Whitney Sanger and Kevin Sharp and everybody that's involved with Project Rooted for doing that work. All right. Well, with that, I see we do have a closed session.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move the council go into closed session according to Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Violence to discuss pending real estate transactions.
Second by Sprank.
We have a motion by Jones, second by Sprank. For the record, the attorney the city council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in the closed session is City Attorney Krenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Roussel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.